There we go. You're good. Fingers. About good thing.
Yeah, no, it was amazing stuff we should. Are you always smart, especially if you are on collaboration? I don't know what you're talking about. I'll look at that. I think we're gonna buy things there on site. I think. Actually, I think it's making it, so that it's gonna go to me. Let's see what. That is. Okay. It just keeps getting bigger.
Oh, sorry. I think I'm. Oh, okay.
With me.
This is funny. Okay, we're gonna get started, folks. Okay, welcome everyone here in our remote control up there. Welcome to our meeting. Call it to order 6:39. We'll first do the roll call. Vice Chair Curtis.
Here.
Members Pavlinek.
Here.
Member Zhang. Members up here.
Here.
Member Ramirez.
Here.
Member DeWitt.
Here.
Okay. And we'll go to first our treasurer's report.
We are sitting at $1,183, pending a few of the remaining payouts for the minutes recorded for 2024.
Okay. Thank you. All right, next is approval of minutes. You've all received a copy of our January minutes. Is there any discussion or corrections? I get a motion?
We'll move to approve. Second.
Okay, motion and second. All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, minutes have been approved. So we'll go to our presentations. We first have a presentation by our supervisor, John Joy.
Thank you, and I know Ronnie's gonna give most of it, I'm gonna say a few words, I have to hit. There's an officer of the year kind of event in El Sobrano tonight for all the cities and the sheriff's department, so. There. Before I actually talk about this view ordinance, I just wanted to say a few words about that because I know there's been discussion and I was gonna suggest process. I do want to say there was a big announcement today. What does it mean for us? You know, Star Health made an announcement that you know, they've been talking about closing all states for some time because it doesn't meet 2030 seismic standards. And they originally had been talking about, although there's a lot of opposition to closing all debates, they had pretty much made that decision. And they had talked about replacing those beds at their hospital in downtown Oakland, which is even further away. So they announced today that they instead would be building a new hospital on Powell off of Interstate 80. And then they would convert Alta Bates into a 24-hour urgent care center and also an ambulatory surgical center. So while it doesn't replace the need for a hospital here, which cost $1 billion to build, by the way, it does provide two benefits for us, this new location, instead of Alta Bates or downtown Oakland, is it would result in slightly quicker ambulance travel times to get from here to Powell because it's right off the freeway. You don't have to drive the 2.5 miles up Ashby.
Okay.
And second, the faster an ambulance gets somewhere and gets back in service, it means it's back out to respond. So it also potentially means a quicker response time. And I think you know this, your high school teacher, my dad, who you had, passed away on Dim Street when he was out that little triangle park walking his dog on a Sunday morning, and he suffered cardiac arrest, ventricular fibrillation. he was revived, but it took too long to revive him, that by the time he got to doctor's hospital, was brain dead. Brain dead, was in a coma for a week and then died. So, minutes matter. That's the meaning of that. So the good news is that it means slightly faster response and travel time. So that's the benefit, and it's Sutter basically replacing Ultimates because I think they realize, and I talked to them about this, that actually building a new hospital was about the same cost or maybe even less expensive than retrofitting Ultimates to meet the seismic standards. Plus Ultimates is constrained, they can't expand it, whereas this site has a lot of room for that.
How long will it take to build a new one?
They don't think the new one will be up until 2032 or 2033. Ultimates is gonna be there till 2030, whether they get an extension past that because of the seismic standards, maybe, I don't know. But they announced today 2032, 2033, but have about 200 beds and at least 22 emergency room beds, which is what Ultimates has now. To be more. So just wanted to mention that.
So they don't have to bring up the current to, they don't have to bring up.
It has to meet some standards, but it's
Lower.
lower than the hospital standards, right, exactly. It's for an urgent care center, and I don't know exactly what that means, but it's not as expensive as bringing it up to hospital standards.
So now can the local residents, if they're not Kaiser, can they still go to the Kaiser for emergency?
Yeah, well, that doesn't change. The
Okay.
majority of the folks who go to Kaiser emergency room are not Kaiser
Okay.
patients.
Okay.
They are obligated under the law to take people who show up for emergency services. They can stabilize them and either release them or send them to another facility where their health insurance is. But so Kaiser, the only chance we get $1 billion investment for a hospital in this area is a John Muir UCSF. But frankly, a lot of these threats by the Trump administration to lower Medicaid reimbursement rates for California will sort of kill any idea to try to build a hospital, because already the Medicaid reimbursement rates are so low, they're less than the cost of providing service. If you were to lower them further, you make it even that much harder. Even John Muir is concerned about that. Right? And Kaiser controls a majority of the commercial pay market here. So you dividing up the commercial market to others is already limited here in West County. Okay, so I wanted to just say, the general plan, now that it's passed, has some policies about a view ordinance here. And I talked to the planning department, and they are at a point where they're looking for guidance as to whether we're doing a zoning code now. Making a zoning code consistent with the general plan of whether to do a view ordinance. And I think we would want to do a couple things. You may want to establish a work group, and then you can meet my office and we can go through the Kensington ordinance in detail. The planning department, and I agree with them, does not want a whole new ordinance. This is the only ordinance that was typed in the county, and they don't want another one. It's complicated. Maybe there's some minor changes. And then we would probably come back here, you would have your work group, talk with us, and then we can maybe do a town hall meeting, see, and be able to explain it to the community. But basically, what the ordinance does, and Victoria, you've gone through this process, the old ordinance did not address any of these things.
And I think this is a great idea,
Yeah.
no reason to
Yeah.
reinvent the wheel when
Right.
they're very similar to us.
We developed this 20 years ago with the Kensington
Right.
community. And basically, the standards, now, where it wouldn't apply, we'll get that information, is under state law, certain ADUs have to be approved over the counter if they're below a certain square footage. And so those would not be, same thing in Kensington, those are not subject to this ordinance. It's a state law that said we have to approve, these second units if they meet certain quantifiable standards. That still applies. Anything that doesn't meet that would go through this process. And really the idea here, and I'll just read a couple things from it. And it's really to have there be a balancing. And for example, it will say the standards of it to ensure the development will promote the values, I'll talk about those, promote general welfare and so forth. The zoning administrator shall evaluate the siting, the size, the bulk, the building envelope, the height, the setbacks, the scale, off-street parking, window placement, artificial lighting, location of mechanical devices like fans and motors. They shall be evaluated on the basis of their impacts on the neighboring properties with regard to view protection, obstructions, privacy in living areas, parking, light and solar access, maintaining residential noise levels and compatibility with the neighborhood. In reaching a decision, they apply a standard that balances the rights of property owners to improve their house, the rights of property owners of vacant lots to build a residence, minimizing impacts on surrounding neighbors, things like that. Maximizing use of interior space. And the views that are protected aren't the view into your neighbor's yard, it's the view of a vista, of the bay, of the mountains, things like that. And not that there can't be an impact, but to minimize those impacts, how somebody adds on to their house. And there are two standards about a hearing. If a notice goes out to the neighbors, if the floor area ratio exceeds a certain amount, floor area ratio of that development, it automatically triggers a hearing. If the floor area ratio is below a certain amount, there is a hearing if a neighbor wants a hearing. Because, you know, you can have a house, this floor area ratio is greater than another, but has less impact. It's all how you do it, where you place the addition. So bottom line is a neighbor can request a hearing, or if it exceeds a certain threshold of floor area impact.
What about the substandard lot issue? Is she gonna do that?
This would apply to all lots. So I think now it only applies to certain lots, it's that small lot review, this would apply to all lots.
Okay.
And the kinds of things that are relevant here, there's some other things in here that talks about obstruction. Means any substantial blockage by the proposed development on surrounding neighbors' light, solar access, view, or pre-existing solar energy. So the main things that are protected, like if someone builds up right against your house and blocks your access to light, your house becomes dark. So that's an issue. That's the access to light.
Blocks the solar panels.
Yeah, and then the other would be the views, clearly. Now, I've been to homes that are 2-story and somebody has a great view on their second story. And not as much on their first story, and a development may block a view to one area of the house, but not others. Those are all the balancing of things, right? You have to sort of look at, you know, it's not like there's no impact on views. There was one recently in Kensington that got appealed to the Board of Supervisors, and over the 20 years this has been in effect, probably less than 5 have been appealed. Most, if they go before the Kensington MAC, they make a recommendation to the zoning administrator. Their decisions are appealable to the planning commission, and their decisions are appealable to the Board of Supervisors. And like somebody had this great view, a neighbor was building off to the side, did not block their view, but diminished the light coming in on the side of their house. And I balanced it, I think we made a slight adjustment in the height of theirs and we approved it. And the party that opposed it didn't want anything blocking their light. I mean, it didn't block everything, and this is a balance, right? So that's all considered, it gives a lot of flexibility to that. So I think Ronnie had sent you the ordinance, but I think what may make sense is you to have a work group. We could meet, go over, answer questions. It would put greater burden on the MAC because of time factors that you may have to meet, you meet now every other month? Every month, okay, yeah, so if you meet every month, then it would work. And you do have a land use committee, you could delegate authority to them, but you really have to get this done quickly, so you're not holding people up. Because some of the opposition will be you're taking longer to get a development approved, which you are. Notices go out to residents, yeah, so that's, I won't go into more detail. I just wanted to say those words and recommend that process.
Yeah, now this was actually a discussion item.
Yeah.
That we have coming up, and I know you're leaving.
For today?
Yeah,
Yeah,
so do we want to, besides Victoria, who else would like to be involved?
I will.
Okay. Joanne,
And I'll be involved in our neighborhood.
Laura,
let me
okay.
think, is how many members on your board?
7.
Oh, there's 7, okay, so you don't want,
Jinwei is not here.
so you don't want more than 3. So that we can
Okay.
notice the meeting, it's an ad hoc committee. We can meet and go over and answer questions, and maybe what you can do is ask the questions you want your committee to ask.
Okay,
And then when we meet, we can go through, because it'll take a lot to go over this. And just ask the questions. And I think, again, I think you have a copy, or this one.
yeah, and I have historical paperwork, we got to Kensington a few years ago.
Yeah, what is their paperwork say? Because one of the things, if you wanna focus your discussion, that's the ordinance. What was their paperwork? It may
Haven't
be
looked at it.
complicated, right, or no,
Yeah.
what it is.
No, they have gone through it and they sent it to us.
Yeah.
We did have some neighbors that were talking about trees. Now are trees?
This does not deal with trees, so we have a tree ordinance in Kensington, it's very different. Only in Kensington, I'm not sure you have a need for it as much here, but remember Kensington has a really big slope, and so. Some areas here have more of a need than others, but we spent months working on this. Way back when we developed it with the community, it's a lot of discussions, so yeah.
Does this
Okay.
impact new construction?
Yeah.
As well? Okay.
New construction or, yeah, like a vacant lot, so yes, so we would have.
That's good, because we're gonna have that big development.
Yeah, so it's interesting, we'll have to see how it would apply to, see, Kensington didn't have a big lot like that. We have to make sure, how does it apply to that? Mind you, their state law can always restrict. Right, especially there's these, right to build kinds of state law, so that could potentially, just like the ADU law. Took a priority over this, right, because the state said if you have to establish objective standards for review, for height. Things like that, and if they meet it, they get over the counter. So those would not, so. We'll look at that, how that would, I think that's different than Kensington, how does this apply to? How would you make this apply to like a big lot like Adam site? And then it doesn't apply to commercial, however, the general plan policy on view protection applies, so when if a commercial development were built. The planning department could consider view impacts, not under this process, but generally.
I know that you have to go, but since it is a discussion item, is there anyone here that has any questions of Supervisor Joey?
Yeah.
So what you were talking about was that the Kensington planning ordinance?
Yes,
And then there is the Kensington street.
it's actually different ordinance, so yeah.
Could we have both or?
That's a totally separate process, that's a lot. What that is there was an ordinance in Kensington that basically said. You're entitled to the view you had on the day you moved in. But there wasn't, and we created a process that creates like a tree hearing board and arbitration process, it tries to get the neighbors to work with each other. We probably wanna do them separately, because they're different issues. I don't know if the tree thing is as much. It's an issue here, I think we have a town hall meeting, we can hear from the public about that.
Are normal people allowed to be on the thing or is it just the Mac?
Everybody's coming, yes.
Of course.
Right, well, and you're no, but I mean, no, anybody can come to the public hearing. Yeah, so
I think
what I meant to say is,
I'm-
what I really meant to say is. Residents around the map have as much of a right to weigh in on this, so we can hear how they feel about it, we want to do that. I just thought they can have a committee that meets to go over this ordinance, ask their questions. Come back here, and then we have more public input here, and we can summarize the ordinance in more detail,
Yeah.
and then do it.
Okay, yeah, I was worriing about that, thinking like maybe we should work as a structure.
Yes, the smaller committee would be more to work with the details to understand, like, what does this mean, what does that mean, but they, the basic approach. But we can explain a lot of this in kind of the pizza master. They may come back and say, here's some questions.
John from on the chat is asking, what about neighbors who don't trim their trees?
What about what?
Neighbors who don't trim their trees?
Who don't trim their trees? This ordinance doesn't deal with trees. That's a separate ordinance that we would have to take up separate discussion for. What we have in Kensington is, if someone doesn't trim their tree and it blocks somebody's view and stops a view or blocks a view that they once had. It creates a process to try to get people to resolve it, or they have to go to court.
Yeah, John Sargent and I have been neighbors for over 60 years. And the last 10 years, we've lost our view.
Yeah,
Some of it for sure.
from trees, from
Yes.
trees. So I mean, that's a separate, yeah, I mean, we can talk about that. That's a separate ordinance though. Yes.
I just wanted to mention, if people have questions before we meet, I think it would be expedient to have those questions
Yeah.
as part of the work group.
Yeah,
So please,
Right.
you know who's on the committee,
Yeah.
send it to one of us so that we
Yeah.
have that.
right. So anybody can provide input. And then that way, like, if you have a question about it and ask them and then when we meet.
Is the work group a public meeting?
This work group is only gonna be, I think, a work session of us. And then, but any other meeting's gonna be public. It's more to get them to understand and answer their questions in a way that then allows them to come back here. And have a public discussion, and I will be with that too. I mean, if they set up a regular committee to work on this, that would be publicly noticed. If it's just this one meeting that's ad hoc, it doesn't need to be, but it would be, but for sure. All the other discussions will be here at the MAC or at the community. And the MAC would be public. It's more just to get them up to speed to understand.
So you can provide feedback to us, and even better, there's a big stack of Ronnie's cards right there. And you can just send it to his.
In fact, if you have any questions after looking at it, you can email them. For sure.
Okay, anybody else have any questions?
I have a quick question that doesn't relate to this. So more and more people are getting plug-in hybrids.
Yeah.
And I know some of my neighbors are parking in the street and putting their cord over the sidewalk to plug it in. And I said, that's a health and safety hazard, people could trip on it. And my husband doesn't want to discuss it with them. And I was up in Berkeley for an estate sale and I noticed a lot of people on that Berkeley street had these little covers, these little
ramps.
yeah, little ramp over the cord, 3 or 4 on one block, so I thought that was very conscientious.
Why don't we note Ronnie to talk to planning, it probably is.
I couldn't find a rule saying that they couldn't do it
Yeah,
across.
I mean, if it goes across the sidewalk,
everything.
yeah, I mean, it's one thing, I realize there are people that do it across their driveway, but across the sidewalk.
Oh, it's across the sidewalk.
Yeah, onto
But
the
they could
park,
park
yeah.
on their driveway, but they choose to park on the street, so
Yeah,
it just
I
seems
think
kind
that's
of-
probably an issue, we'll check, I mean, obviously, if they have a place to park in the driveway, that's better.
They do.
Then that would, cause then it's dangerous
Right.
across the sidewalk, you can trip on it, yeah.
Oh, I totally agree,
Yeah.
my husband.
I don't know how they
doesn't
discuss
discuss
that, but it's an enforcement issue more
But
than
more,
anything.
it's happening more and more and
Yeah,
more,
yeah,
so
yeah.
I think it needs to be addressed.
Right,
It's an accident waiting to happen.
got it.
Okay.
Okay, anyone have any other questions on this topic?
And Ronnie will do the rest of the report, including Jelly's fundraiser, right?
Oh, yeah,
You talked to Lynn?
I'm gonna call him on the drive, I'll call him about that, I'm driving out to Tulsa Ground and I'll call him. Just haven't had a chance to call him yet.
all right, thank you,
Okay,
John.
thanks.
Yeah, okay.
Sorry, I could stay, but.
All right, I'll hand it over to Ronnie.
That's right, on your fundraiser, I wanna make sweet potato pie.
Yes.
But it'll taste like pumpkin pie, and it'll look like pumpkin pie.
Delicious.
Call it mystery pie.
Oh, autumn.
People can guess what it, a fall pie, I like it, yes.
All right, so I'll run through this really quickly. I know we have a few other presentations in the pipeline. And so just a quick update in regard to the Wildfire Coalition and coming town hall. Supervisor Joy is the chair of the Wildfire Coalition of East Bay Governments and is driving efforts to strengthen wildfire management through collaborative vegetation guidelines and expanded grant opportunities for fire districts. And so a community town hall is in the works to update residents on local fire prevention actions, featuring experts on fire safety, emergency response, a handful of other agencies and funding resources. And so more details regarding our participation will be sent out soon. And we're looking tentatively for next month, but we're still finalizing the details. And jumping down to our Jelly's Place relocation. Supervisor Joya recently met with representatives from Chevron and Jelly's Place to review the county's land use permit process to facilitate the relocation of local animal rescue and adoption organization Jelly's Place. And given this positive development, we will be reaching out to Caltrans to explore options for extending Jelly's Places timeline for relocation, just to ensure that their operations remain uninterrupted during the transition. And lastly, kind of a recurring plug for committees and commissions. So commissions and committees, I said that correctly. These are great training grounds for anyone in the community that would like to join and people wanting to serve the community. And so we have a good number of vacancies for District 1. So if you're looking to become more involved in the community, you can always reach out to me, and my cards are available here on the table if you're in person, and I can provide that information to you this Friday on the newsletter coming up. Concludes my.
That's the last thing, I was just gonna ask you if you could reach out to the three of us to set up a meeting with John. Or some.
For the working group?
Yeah,
Yeah, sure.
okay.
Yeah, I already have it in my notes. to reach out.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Laura?
Yeah, a couple things. So can you just give some examples of some of the committees that are open? So,
Yeah, I know for sure we have a mental behavior health board that's a newly formed committee that gears towards fostering holding space for those that are suffering with mental health issues. And so that's one of the newest ones. We have an Economic Opportunity Council. Just thinking of one for North Richmond, but that wouldn't apply to us here. That's for their vacancy for the MAC. So there are about 10 vacancies for the District 1 that are open currently. There was a newsletter that was sent out last weekend, but you can always reach out to me. And then we also have it listed on our district's website also. So.
you know, when Supervisor Joy is meeting with Caltrans about jellies? Because I thought that Chevron, it was gonna take a couple of years to get Jelly's buildings to be okay on the Chevron property, if that.
Yeah, we're kind of just still in the initial talks with Chevron. It was a positive outcome from that meeting, and so I think the biggest thing is just funding to get, all the funding to get the buildings up and going, but it was really a positive conversation.
Great.
So, yeah, really excited about that. Yeah.
Okay, anyone else with any questions?
What happened to the meeting for the fire safety for residents?
Yes, that would fall under a subcommittee for the MAC. And so in that regard, it would have to be personed by someone here on the MAC and also noticed out to the community. And so we're just finalizing the details to go ahead and get that. But according to Victoria, we have a lot of interest in that, so we'll definitely be getting that a bit
We
released.
probably have about 30 people on the list so far.
Yeah.
And we have to comply with Brown Act.
Yeah, Brown Act and all that fun stuff, so. But once we solidify date and time, all the regular communication will be sent out via email as well, newsletters and things of that nature, so. We can look out for that.
That will be coming.
As well as the pedestrian safety, I know Royer has that in the pipeline also.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, thank you, Ronnie.
You're welcome.
Okay, we'll go to Michelle.
Hello, Chair Sargent, Vice Chair Curtis, and MAC board members, member of the public. It's a joy to be here with you tonight. We and other jurisdictions are experiencing a expected increase in the request for support for newly identified firewise neighborhoods throughout the county, and we are working to accommodate them. Other jurisdictions in the county are seeing this similar rise in interest following Southern California incidents, and we look forward to identifying a firewise leader in the given evacuation zones for East Richmond Heights, gathering support for those proposed firewise zones, and also working with our firewise regional coordinator with ConFire to support the unincorporated areas of the county. Having a firewise designation does not increase or decrease your ability to obtain insurance. That relationship is between the insured and insurer, and ConFire does not wish to be part of that relationship. However, working with a firewise group with a like-minded focus on becoming more fire adapted absolutely increases your safety for yourself and your neighbors. In support of Firewise communities and residents who have yet to become Firewise, the Contra Costa Wildfire Mitigation Program is available to receive project requests. Identifying your project now will help us plan and garner the necessary support to complete those projects in a timely manner. Please review the criteria for each project type at our website. I'll pop that into the chat. And if you wish to discuss your project prior to entering, please feel free to contact me at mrine@cccfpd, Contra Costa County Fire Protection District.org, or at my phone number. My cell number is 925-440-5831. And I'll also share my information into the chat. As far as my county coordinator role, being embedded with ConFire, we continue to be funded for the second month by Measure X funds. So January 2025 and February 2025, following the closure of that grant, we have relied wholly on the Measure X funding to keep this position going. CAL FIRE and the California Fire Safe Council announced that there is an additional grant coming. I work very hard for you within the county to meet all of the criteria expected to be in that new grant funding release. I will keep the MAC board informed as new application details and information becomes available. And if the Contra Costa County Fire Protection District choose to apply for any new grant and funding for this position and other projects, we will seek approval from the Board of Supervisors or the Fire Board, whichever one is the appropriate resource. With that, I am prepared to take your questions.
Okay, council members, any questions from you? Comments? Okay, any questions or comments from neighbors? Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I just wanted to find out if there was any other information about the generators for the reservoirs. Wasn't there some of the reservoirs that had them and some that didn't, or am I wrong?
Yeah, this actually had to do with East Bay mud. With the, in our particular case, our water tank that's up at the top of Richmond Avenue, Del Monte up there on the golf course. But I have not heard of an update yet. I still am pushing for that. And when we had we didn't have a committee meeting.
Sure. I do have a prepared water statement from ConFire's leadership. And I would like to read that for you. It is consistent with the information that we have received from the SoCal incidents. So in Contra Costa County, fire service is distinctly different from water service. While we work closely with each of our water purveyors in our jurisdiction, your specific water purveyor would need to be contacted to better understand their maintenance, repairing, upgrading, and replacement of any fire hydrants or storage containers. We at Contra Costa County Fire Protection District provide emergency services to a vast array of areas within the county to include urban, suburban, and rural areas. Each of these areas come with their unique circumstances, and we are prepared to respond no matter where the call for help is received from. We encourage all to check our website and to sign up for the community warning system alerts for timely, critical information. I know that doesn't directly answer your question, but it is the message provided by ConFire's leadership regarding water purveyors in our county. Thank you.
Okay.
So John Joya was saying that there was gonna be on the town hall March 8th at 10 a.m. to noon. And on February 27th from 9:30 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. And I think they're gonna talk about some of that too, but I don't know the location, but I know the dates.
Would you do the
Would
chimes again?
there be a possibility of having the water people come here, or?
Yeah, I think they're gonna have East Bay Mud and PG&E at those town halls. But
At those.
at those
It's
two.
a small group things. Yeah.
And the dates again were February 27th, 9:30 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. and then March 8th. Yeah.
I can be at the February 27th. I cannot be at March 8th in case anybody else can be at March 8th.
Do you know, is that open to the public, that went
Yes.
through Zoom?
Yes.
So anyone would be able to attend that?
Mhm.
And
How do we get that information out?
Well, that was a part of the county update for the town halls, it's a tentative date and time.
No, I meant so that they could get the Zoom.
Oh, yeah, so we'll send out, like we normally do with all of our information, we'll send that out to everyone via email.
Okay.
And if you aren't signed up for the newsletter, be sure to sign up either here or reach out to me via email and we can get you signed up to
So
receive
do
it.
you have email?
I do, and I think I've signed up for the
Okay,
newsletter.
if you're not sure, that clipboard right there, any of you, if you wanna sign up for that, then you have the information directly from Ronnie. Okay, yes.
Lawyer, I talked to John before the meeting started, offering to help advertise the March 8th, town hall. And he asked me to hold off because apparently that date might change.
okay,
But he said that the February 27th was a definite.
Good, and that's from, I believe, 9:30 to
11:30.
11:30. And I'm
I
gonna.
believe it's at San Pablo Community Center, wasn't it next to the city hall? It's like
And if not at City Hall, actually at City Hall, should be at City Hall.
at City Hall,
Yeah.
okay.
Okay,
San Pablo City Hall?
Yeah, I believe it's San Pablo City Hall.
okay, so yeah, that's important, and we've discussed this now. This first came up when we still had Wildcat Canyon Fire Group meetings. We haven't had one in a couple of years. That's where all the fire chiefs that surround Wildcat Canyon were attending with, you know, the public. And the issue that was raised was our own water tank. Because it's gravity flow, we all get our water from the tank up there on the golf course. The pumping station that fills that tank is down on Carquinez. Okay, and if you go there and look, the PG&E power lines go right to the station. Now, when they do a planned power outage where we have an outage, that pump was not run, so it cannot pump water up there. And the question I asked PG&E back then, East Bay Mud back then, is if we have a fire up here, how are you going to put water back up to our tank? And the guy who was there working that day said, we'll have to find a generator and get it hooked up. And I said, well, how long does that take? He says about half a day. So I have never been satisfied with that answer, and I've never heard anything else more than that. So I share your concern, and we will.
I think that was part of the problem with the fires in LA was actually getting the water. You know, not that they didn't have water, but they couldn't get it to the fire.
And that's exactly what happened in Oakland, and John was involved with that. The tanks ran out, so
Right,
we will.
so we
follow up
need
with that.
PG&E, we need a backup
Not PG&E,
generator.
we need, oh, I'm sorry.
East Bay Mud has to
Well,
go
yeah,
to
there's a
PG&E, right?
PG&E, there's power failure, then they need to,
Right, so they need to be able to get a backup generator to move the water.
yeah, and East Bay Mud has installed them at other water tanks. You can see it up at Hilltop, at the main pumping station down on Amador, they put a generator in, so we know some areas do have it. But our little
And that set a precedence for us.
does not have one up the What
kind of price tag is on a generator?
Depends on the kind.
The hill is not the same as the one that's up above us.
Del Monte's. Oh, you have one there too?
well, we have like 3 water pumps up there. We've got a big one next to Wildcat Canyon, and then we've got like 2 in Wildcat Canyon. So
But you have generators to move the water?
we don't know.
Yeah, on the Hasford Heights side, you've got a tank right there. Is there a generator in there?
I don't know. Be good to find out, be
If
good to find out.
it's there, you should be able to see this big box.
Mhm.
Oh, I don't, unless if it's
I haven't
on
been
the
up
other
there in
side.
about a year to check it out. Okay,
I mean, it would be good to know which ones have generators and which ones don't. And that it shouldn't be something where that they have to drag it up that day to get there.
I agree. Yeah. So we've got that on our list. We'll follow up with that. Does anybody else have any questions for the fire district or about this topic? Royer?
Yeah, I guess another like observation is, so originally I'm from the south and it's like generally newer developments. But one thing I've noticed when I moved to California was the lack there of fire hydrants, especially like in East Bay compared to like San Francisco. Like you could go several blocks without even seeing a fire hydrant, and that's not normal. And so just wanted to highlight that, like, as we go to this town hall, it might be good to also bring that up, like, what's their strategy for adding new fire hydrants to keep up with like modern infrastructure?
We should look at a map and like, is there a map, Michelle, that exists of fire hydrants in the East Bay? Or in the county?
Yes.
Can we get a copy of that?
Okay, so I appreciate your question and I want to support your effort. But I want to also echo the statement from leadership. I think that the town hall will bring resources, and I've been assured that if further education is needed after the town hall, then we can look at that as need for follow-up, right? But I think that the town hall, in the way that Supervisor Joya organizes pertinent agencies to come together to bring you support. The last thing that I want to do is spin our wheels here. I want the resources to be brought to you in the town hall. And if questions remain, which there very well may be, I, as your county coordinator, would like to support getting those answers.
Okay, kind of oppose that comment, just because more information will help us bring up more informed questions to those town halls. And so I think the answer is not less information, but more information, so we can be well informed as a community. Because I think there's a lack of, I mean, California in general needs to do better when it comes to tackling climate change, and things are changing, and what we used to do 10 to 20 years ago isn't really working.
Sure, and thank you for that feedback, Board Member Ruiz Ramirez. I appreciate your question, and I heard also another board member comment. So I'm not saying no, I'm just not in charge of those maps, but I will pose the question to leadership and ask a resource that can get them to you. Okay? Thank you.
Anyone else with any questions or comments? Okay, Michelle, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Chair Sargent. I'm with you currently, because I'm recouping from being ill and I just didn't want to get anyone sick. So I appreciate the leeway of attending here online. And I look forward to seeing you in the next meeting.
Thank you. We appreciate you. I didn't see Lieutenant Holland. Is anyone here from the Sheriff's Department?
No. Sergeant Bradenberg, she did provide me a quick explanation. I think she was on the call also, and she sent this to me about an hour or so ago. Let's see. A significant report was a theft of a bicycle off of a bike rack of a vehicle on the 6,000 block of Ralston Avenue. Unknown suspects, no other similar incidents. There were 0 major crimes reported and 53 calls for service, with only 5 reports generated. And so that's all that.
What time period was that?
She didn't provide the time period, yeah. I know Lieutenant Holland would have loved to be here, but he was also joining the event, the award ceremony in El Sobrante also. El Sobrante, sorry. Awesome. Yeah, so that concludes the chair's report.
Okay, thank you, Ron. All right, do we have anyone from the Highway Patrol here, or did anybody reply to that? Okay. All right, we'll move on to our discussion items. So we've talked about the view ordinance. Number 2, discussion of the Art and Music Festival, which is now dated for August 2nd. And it's on. We have group chairs. right here who are helping coordinate that along with a lot of volunteers. We need more volunteers to make this happen. Danyo, with the temple there has indicated that that date works for him. And, Leonard, who maintains the lot there on, the corner of Elm and Bernhard, is on board with that. And I just yesterday got the permit application,
Good.
so I've got all the paperwork and I'll get going on that with the county.
Do you have a list of last year's participants, so we don't have to reinvent the wheel there?
Yes, and that is Alan. Alan, who is helping us and did a fantastic job managing that last year,
Okay,
has got all that information.
good.
And so, we've got plenty of stuff to go and we're getting a head start this year, so. It's gonna happen. We'll have our big festival up there on Saturday, August 2nd.
What hours are we gonna have?
We haven't picked that
Okay.
yet. What hours would you like?
I think 10 to 5, but we'll be there early to set up and stuff, don't you think?
I think we start a little too early last time?
I think 11 is a good
Let me
time
see
to
what
start.
time the sunset.
11 in the past is when we did. Joanne?
John, I just want to remind people that Danyo, this isn't exactly art festival news, but Danyo did put in an appeal that we published in last month's newsletter that they are having a huge 50th anniversary or 25th anniversary, and they want neighbors to help them do parking control. So if you want to do a mitzvah for Danyo, reach out to them because that's in April. And
Okay.
they did, it's in last month's newsletter, which is right over here on the, you can see more of a description. But if people want to help him out, that's how they can help the foundation out.
The temple, okay.
I take it back, the sunset is at 8:15, so I think 11 o'clock would be a better start time for
Okay. All right. Any questions on that?
Can we research this? I think Bara had like drafted up an East Richmond Heights kind of logo with a banner. I don't know, maybe we can get like a head start and approve the funding for that. That way we at least have that.
Maybe I think I think along with that, Joanne, you and I had talked about, like, how do we make ourselves look presentable and not makeshifty? Like, what are the things maybe we could talk
I
about?
think we could have a subcommittee, that could be one of the little
I'm happy to
subcommittees.
have a conversation.
And we had this approved last year, we just couldn't get it in time. So I don't know what we have to do to forward that, but I think there were some other things that we needed too, so maybe we should get a list together.
Yeah.
And
I think if we're gonna do a banner and logo and everything, it'd be nice to sell T-shirts so that people in East Richmond Heights can wear T-shirts.
Yeah, and actually Leonard has done that. I don't know that he's even broken even for that. We have had some T-shirts
I've seen it,
at the past festivals, yeah. So
well, maybe with our new logo, would be nice,
you guys will figure that out.
okay.
so
Okay.
can we use our budget? We could use our budget for those items, okay?
I think they have a question.
Yeah, sorry, yes.
In the past, are there like food and beverage vendors, like do people like apply for it and stuff like that, for like a spot?
Yeah, Alan Krakauer will be the person for that. If you want to, do you have a card or anything, you wanna give me your contact information, I can give that to him. He's not with us tonight, but yeah, he'll help you out and get you set up for that if you like.
What is your business?
I don't have one yet, but.
Oh, okay,
Okay, that's the case.
you have to August 2nd. You have to August 2nd.
Well, no, you gotta sign up before that.
You do.
Yeah. Okay, anything else on this topic? All right. We'll go to our subcommittee. The land use committee.
Yes, we had a subcommittee meeting on Monday, February 10th. There were 3 applications. The first one was at 6319 Highland Avenue. It was for an approval of a variance to allow an as-built 3rd story for the construction of a concrete slab in an unconditioned basement space. Actually, it didn't change the envelope of the building. all they were doing, their garage has a concrete floor, the other half is a dirt floor, and they're having trouble with their foundation, and they're gonna concrete their floor, which was recommended approval. And then the second one was at 2758 Del Monte Avenue. And that was the request for variance and small lot design review to allow for an 8 foot to 8'5", 8.5 inch secondary frontage and public road setback, where 15 and 10 foot is the minimum. And for the construction of a second story addition and house remodel. So the house is existing, so it's probably legalizing already what these setbacks are, and then adding a second floor. This was before us once before, we sent it back to the county. It had a whole bunch of, both Jinwei and I found a whole bunch of things that were missing that would allow us to do the design review. The applicants came back, they got all the things, ducks in order, and we recommended approval on that. And the final one is at 6151 Park Avenue. And let's see, that was for approval of a land use permit with a small lot design review for the legalization of an existing second residence. So again, that applicant did not have all the information needed, and we sent it back to the county to allow the applicant to get the information that was needed. Actually, the applicant himself was not that sure about which building they were talking about, and so that has to come back to us.
Okay, any questions for our land use committee?
I have a question.
Yes.
So when we get the notification of the subcommittee meeting, it seems that there are no addresses included. It's usually just the application number, so there's a whole lot of gymnastics.
Yes, and I just added the, if you scroll down, all the applications are attached to the agenda.
It's a whole package, so.
Yeah, you scroll down and all the applications are attached, and if you look at that, the addresses are indicated. And they are indicated, every one of these comes with what looks like, this is called a planning application summary. And that is always attached to the agenda. And the address, the applicant's address, the property owner, all that information is right up here. And I don't know what, Ronnie, you would have to do to add the addresses to the actual front of the agenda. It's probably more work, but if they are attached.
Okay, Joanna.
So I want to agree with, I'm sorry, for your name.
Lizzie.
Lizzie, I agree with Lizzie, and I brought this up once before. Part of that gymnastics, it's really, really involved to go in and find it. So the point of noticing people and letting them know that this committee is deliberating on these things is to make it possible for neighbors to be aware of it. It's like we're putting a speed bump in front of neighbors. Because you really, it's a lot of steps to have to go through to find the address. And then you have to do that on every single one to find out if it's something that applies to your street or your view or your neighbors. And I just feel really strongly that instead of asking neighbors and all these places to go through all that time, I know it's more time for you, Ronnie, but if you could take the time to go through and open up each application and find the address and put it in the notification, then we can spend our time doing other things for our neighborhood, rather than going through and opening up all these different links that then end up not being relevant for us. It's a very frustrating experience.
How do you create the agenda?
So it's in a third-party platform called Legistar, and it's links, there's just one link to the agenda packet. And so I can definitely do that.
Okay, great.
Oh, so you can work magic for us. All right, Ronnie, thank you. All right.
Next.
Okay, anything else for the land use? Okay. All right. We'll go on to, I'm sorry, we don't have a historical presentation tonight, but we will have them again. Item 8, are there any things that you're interested in having on the future agenda or speakers for upcoming MAC meetings, I know, Bara, you mentioned, thinking that. Said we wanted to talk to,
PG&E at one point.
was it PG&E?
Yeah, that was on the last, that was in the minutes.
Okay. Did we ever get that answered?
No.
Okay, so that's still floating out there. We'd like to have someone from PG&E talk to us.
Oh, I think John Joya was saying that to go to the town hall. See, he was saying that he didn't want PG&E and Spain Mud having to go to Kensington.
Oh, okay.
Oswego.
He wants everybody there at once.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay, so we'll go to town hall and figure it out from there.
okay, all right. All right, anything from anyone else on that? Okay, item 9 is public comment on any item under the jurisdiction of the council that is not on this agenda tonight. We go with Royer first.
Okay, just wanted to mention that the pedestrian and road safety subcommittee got kind of postponed, and I think several people are supposed to meet with you guys, but we're still working on finalizing a date. I think I proposed March 12th at 6:30 for Ronnie, but I don't know where we would meet.
We'll more than likely be at the supervisor's office, just because it's kind of a centralized area, so that can definitely be we'll just solidify that.
Okay. So I think maybe plan on that. And then the other thing was, yeah, like, I think there's, if I have a video, but I'll probably just wait and show it at the subcommittee, but there's. Like, yeah, like I think we need stop signs in the neighborhood. So.
Yeah, I would, because that, you guys set that pretty late to do
Yeah.
it tonight.
And I do have it on my iPad, but if you're curious what I'm talking about, come find me after.
Okay. All right. Yes, ma'am.
About that, on those curves, I think that's what you're talking about on Bayview Avenue. Is maybe putting speed bumps in as opposed to stop signs. Or because that's what like Berkeley and El Cerrillo, they have these speed bumps, they're very annoying, but they do get people to slow down.
Yeah.
On those, that particular curve, maybe two, one at the beginning of the curve and then one closer to the, around the curve.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, yes, sir.
Yeah, I was interested in that subcommittee, I didn't hear back, so anybody that's responded to you will get an email with the date of the meeting and location?
That's correct, cause I was kind of in violation of the Brown
Yeah,
Act.
we have to follow some rules, so that's
So to stop all communication. So, sorry about the confusion.
Joanna, you had your hand up.
Yes, I have my hand up. I want to get this on the camera. Let's see if I can get this over here. Can we see this? Ooh, what's that? Pancakes.
Good job.
That's delicious. Pancakes. I would like to invite the MAC and all the neighbors to come back here on Tuesday night, March 12th, just a couple weeks. Less than a couple weeks for our Fat Tuesday pancake supper. It was a big hit last year. We had live music by Dan Damon, a renowned local jazz musician. And we're gonna have pancakes and sausages and fruits and veggies and lots of good company. So it's from 4:30 to 7:30. You can stay in here and eat in, or we have boxes you can take it home with you if you'd like to take your pancakes home. It supports our work, Open Door United Methodist Church work at the Greater Richmond Interfaith Project's family shelter down in downtown Richmond. The only shelter in the area that allows families to stay together when they're struggling with housing. And so we invite you to come support the work of GRIP and support the work of Open Door and have fun sitting with neighbors. There will be an art table. We're making Mardi Gras masks. And of course, we're gonna have the jungle gym out there for kids to play on. The sun doesn't set until 6:09 that night. So you come early, there'll be plenty of daylight and we hope you will all join us.
And what's the date again?
Tuesday, March 4th.
Okay.
And we have these flyers. So I'm happy to give you all a flyer to share with a neighbor, invite someone near your house. And I can get more if we need more. All right,
All right,
any questions?
thanks. Okay. Laura, did you have something?
Yeah, I'll announce, I'm going to be hosting an auction, I am hosting an auction and fundraiser, it's happening at my house on Sunday. Money is going to the 501c3 Stitch in Time Animal Rescue. The auction is world class, it's amazing, we've got art from Maryland, we've got the DeYoung, tickets to the DeYoung, we've got tickets to SF MoMA, SF Symphony, Oakland Zoo, go backstage with the tortoises. We've got Berkeley Rep. I mean, it's such a world-class celebration of Bay Area artists and the culture here. We also are being sponsored by the Cheese Board Collective, Hen House Brewery, Revival Bar and Kitchen in Berkeley, Angel Cakes. So there's going to be food. There's going to be John Joya's pumpkin or sweet potato pie. There's going to be a raffle, and then we've got amazing musicians, Jeff Stott, Kevin Seal, and Sharon Warto, and I might sing a couple songs too. So it should be really wonderful. It's 1 to 4:30. Tickets are $75. If anyone needs a discount, just get in touch with me. Be happy to provide that. It should be a really great afternoon celebrating the rescues and volunteers that are doing the work to save these animals in the county.
Thank you for doing that.
All right, thank you, Barb. All right, anything else? Okay, well, thank you all very much. And we'll adjourn the meeting and see you next month on Wednesday, March 19th.